And we are live. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Mecca of Banter podcast. I'm your host this week, Nick Haflinger at Hafy4 on Twitter. And boy, did we have a spicy weekend that I'm pumped to talk about. And if you are watching on YouTube, you know already. But if you are not and you are just listening, it is a duo recording today with me and my main man, Mr. Hoove. And we've talked about it many times before in some of these duo podcasts, but they get a little spicy when it's just us two, especially after 2 wins from both of our clubs. I have a feeling we're going to be throwing some banter around. So, Hoove, why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
Yup, Hoove here. You're right on these duo pods. I mean, there's less interrupted banter per se. I miss the lads. Always like having them on, obviously. Especially after one of your teams wins over one of theirs. That's always, pretty fun. But
Quite interesting how we didn't show up to this one.
They both had reasonable excuses. Dobes is a coach these days. Hen's moving tomorrow. I get it. But man, did I want them on, and their statements are actually hysterical. Laugh out loud, hysterical. So we'll get there. Obviously, Hoove here checking in, Young Yet on Twitter. Let's do it, brother.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. And for those of you who do not know, for the rest of the Mecca of Banter lads, we do have a couple of them who are in season and are coaching. Ryan Butchart is the head coach of Lafayette, and they got a game tonight, so they're out doing that. And Henry had a bachelor party this weekend because my main man is getting married next year. So big shout to him. So shout out to the boys who couldn't make it. But me and Hoove are going to have some fun. And just to give you listeners a little outline, we're obviously going to talk about not only the Premier League, but the team that all of us support, which is St. Louis City. They had a great game in our derby over the weekend. And then obviously we'll get into the Premier League and all the spicy games that happened, some red cards and some interesting late drama. But before we get into that, let's start off with St. Louis City facing our rivals, Sporting Kansas City. I like to call them our little sisters. And with a final score of 3-1 at City Park. Now, Hoover, you were at this game. How was that atmosphere? It was probably pretty lively.
It was great, man. It was what you expected out of it. Berkey's comments before the match talking about Schalke and their rivalry with Dortmund. That was a stretch a little bit, but I loved hearing it from the cap. I'll take any sort of plaudits he'll give me. He's been there, played it the best.
Trying to make some comparisons of his past life.
That's all he could. Yeah, I mean, that's all he could compare to. And it was a huge game. Not really for either team in the table, but
for playoff regards.
Yeah, playoffs. It actually is official now with Minnesota's win last weekend that we are out of playoff contention. Which we were out of playoff contention probably like 6 weeks ago. There was a little hope left on the pod.
And Hen thought that there was a chance. And
I did too, man. But I don't know. It's over, done and dusted. Season's done. But this game was this was the hope for the future derby is what this was. This was who do we think is going to be better next year? And I thought the score was an accurate reflection of what we can expect, and what the league can expect from us going forward. It was lively. It was fun. It wasn't super fluid, and I thought Kansas City did a pretty solid job of, stifling a lot of big buildups and things like that. But we got to see individual moments of which we now have 5 or 6 guys that provide them 100%.
That's a great feeling. Something we haven't had for
we haven't
ever.
had it. Yeah, we haven't had it. Nilsson got some minutes too. There was a lot of really good feel good things about this one. Obviously, you want to beat KC every single time you play them.
Yep.
But I financially invested this one. This was a bet that I am absolutely hammered because I knew we were gonna win. Like I don't know. There was not 1 ounce of doubt in my mind that we were coming away in this game with 3 points, and I was right, 100%. I never make those hammer bets, and they never land when I do. So that was great. But yeah,
A
but
win and a win is always a huge dub.
leaving with some money in the pocket and 3 points, bro. That's what football gambling's about. It's the best. But what we did get to see were these moments, right? I think we all know now what Cedric Teuchert can do,
Which is Kansas City's dad. Like
would
that.
just be a lot of guys' dads apparently. He
Holy cow! What a performance!
What a performance. And I think I tweeted this during the game, albeit after a few sodas and maybe not in the right frame of mind. But I was like, I genuinely still don't really know what he does, but I know he does it really well. Like, he is in the right position all the time, and he knows how to finish the ball. He's not going to take 5 guys on and drive to the line. He's not
No
going to.
speedster. Yeah.
No, bro. We do not have pace up top these days. But he can get a shot off in a phone booth. Like that, the goal he scored was, the more I watched it back yesterday and today, it was awesome live, but he had no right to get that ball out of the space that he was in. It was something of a broken play. Akil Watts, shot deflection, lands right on his foot. One touch, square, finish, curled it bottom corner. It was tasty. It was a finish, yes. 100%.
Get it off in one step is just quality, and the placement of it as well. Like, the goalie's late on his dive because of how quickly he's able to get his shot off, and like, he's not touching it anyway because it's placed so well. But
no,
it looks nice.
There was no pace on it. There didn't need to be any pace on it. He literally found the spot of the net that the keeper was never going to get to, and with the speed that he got it off, you're right, 100%. He did not need power behind it. It was disgusting. If you look, in my opinion, it was disgusting, and I didn't think it was as cool in the moment. I'm caddy corner from the supporters section, so it was right in front of them. But it was really impressive watching it back. And then too, I think there was a discussion a little bit online about, what does João Klaus bring? He rolls defenders off of his back and takes the ball to the end line. Like, it's his intangibles in this game cannot be understated. I think if people didn't realize that he played really well, then we're not watching the same guys. Yeah. I don't like to tell people that they don't know ball, but he was great.
But a lot of people look at no goal, no assists, and they're just like, immediately like, oh, he had a bad game. He's a striker. He needs the stats. And it's like, no, like, he obviously provided so much more to us going forward and in our offensive third. And I think you explained it perfectly with his ability to roll people and hold up the ball.
Yeah, he holds up the ball really well. They said on the commentary, it was Route 1. That ball was straight to Berkey. Berkey was directing traffic. Klaus gets under it, realizes it's going over his head. Defender doesn't, rolls off of him. He's in. He's not going to, again, not the blistering pace that we would need for him to be on a one-on-one situation, but he had enough time to get his head up, find a pass, albeit a little scruffy, and then Seti just picks his head up and we've got to tap in at the back post. So, what he does is not always going to be translated to goals. Your number 9 should score goals, yes, but he doesn't have to be the guy now. There was so long where he was all we had. Like, he was doing too much. People were so upset because he was overplaying. And now he's, call it underplaying a little bit, and we're balling, and people are pissed. No one's happy. No one can be happy with this guy until he's on the score sheet. Just appreciate the play itself. So that was awesome. He played great. Quiet night from Hartle, which is fun, and we're still winning 3-1. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things.
As well, of like, Hartle's kind of been not carrying us, but like, he's been providing us that little spark in our offensive third of late. And like, when he doesn't have it, it's nice to know that we have someone else that can literally just pretty much fill in that space, which is Teuchert this game. But like, I also still think there's 3 other people that I could name that could fill that space as well. And that's something that we haven't had ever. And now that we have it, it's really nice to see. I know we've been talking about our offense a whole bunch, but I'm still sketchy on our defensive half, especially with their ball at their feet. I love Hebert, and obviously Missouri State guy, but like, that game to me, he had the ball at his foot way too often. And when he had it at his foot, he was either playing it back to the goalie or the wing back. And he wasn't really doing much for us and creating that much. So anytime the ball is at one of our center backs' feet, and if it's not Nielsen, I'm usually pretty sketched. So that's just something that I want us to possibly figure out for the next season, because I think if we do, we will be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely hit that drum, and with everything obviously positive going forward, we could look like Chelsea in the sense of, can you score more than us? I don't know, because that's what it's going to
I was
take.
wondering where you were going with that, and I'm okay with where you took it.
Can you score more than us? Because we're not going to keep you out of the net either. So
Nope.
it's a double-edged sword too, but for sure, I think this is, we've got another game on Wednesday, and then home finale on Saturday, and I'm just not interested anymore. And I don't, it'll be nice to see. I'm sure we'll rotate guys. These guys don't need to play anymore. I don't want Nielsen to get too many minutes. I want people to come back healthy next season. Give some young lads a chance. I'd love to see JGR get after it for 90. Some things that we don't know about some of these guys, that this was some great testing ground to get minutes, at a high level in their legs. But, wrapping it up, getting on the score sheet's great with his injury history, and I think he deserves one here and there. He's great out on the wing. He's really, without Salio, one of the only out-and-out wingers that we have. And then, again, we didn't talk about it. The touch and finish from Edu Lowen was disgusting.
I was going to bring it up if you didn't bring it up.
That was disgusting.
It's also just like such a confidence builder for him.
Yeah.
Like, you could, when that ball went in, I don't know if you could see it from where you were at, but almost the immediate deep breath he took after it went in. You could just see in his face that he needed that one, and what a classy finish! Of him to get back on the score sheets and back scoring. That's exactly what I expected him to do.
Dude, he was cheesing, and we're I don't know. I thought maybe this whole chance was a lot harder than he made it look. That ball over the top, it wasn't over the top. It was a soft cross. It wasn't pinged at him by any means, but he literally brings it down under his foot, rolls it out in front of him, side net. It was a similar, little bit more finesse than Cedric's goal, but he brought it down so quick, rolled it out, had it in position outside of his feet, easy. You knew where he was going with the ball the entire time, and you just couldn't stop it. So, yeah, you're right. The relief he had, bro, he just was cheesing, slowly jogged over to Seti
this season, and finally, it was just awesome to see, and I was super happy for him to get
yeah. So he deserves that. He also deserves a trip back to Germany. Go home for a bit, brother. Let's get some, R&R in you. There's a little bit of me that's glad that everyone gets a break. Yeah, obviously I want to be in playoffs, but if we're going to be the 9th team looking in, just take the rest, bro. Let's we weren't making a cup run, in my opinion, but everything's looking so much more positive. The MLS 360 team, I listened to some of their stuff leading up to the game, and they were all yes, Kansas City got to a U.S. Open Cup final, asterisk. City looks better. They went out and got these guys that are here and balling. So it's good seeing it now, because we all believe that next year's just going to be better. We're not, as far as we know, there's no major pieces that we're going to be losing, because we brought so many in. There's a couple guys that'll rotate, and I'm sure there will be some incomings. But all in all, man, it's yeah, no kidding. It's it's a little bit of relief on my end, just winning this game, knowing how big this was to the city. Everyone feeling good about it. The vibes are kind of back. I still don't think Hackworth's the guy, but that may be a conversation for later in the year.
That was going to be one thing I wanted to bring up before we ended it, was if you thought he should be who we sign next year.
I don't want him to be.
I don't either.
But
I think what he's done has been great, and I think he's for what we have right now, and for him to get the product out on the field that we're getting. Yes, obviously we can critique it finally, and we can look it under a fine-tooth comb if we wanted to, but I think he's done a good job. But as far as us winning a title and what I want us to be, I don't think he is the coach for it.
No, and it's the whole thing is me coming back to, it's no knock on Hack. I think
not at all.
I think all the players love this guy. He's proven already that he has more tactical flexibility than Bradley ever did. So immediately off the jump, I would have thought, brother. No, we would have thought. You and I could have gone out there and set up a team with a little bit more flexibility.
Well, I also told it like halfway through season 1. I was like, "Is this really our guy?"
You were early on the train, bro. I'm not gonna. You were early on the train. I'll give you that. But yeah, look, I want him to stay at the club. My issue now and concern is that it sounds like he's got the coaching bug and he wants to manage. So
Yep.
this could be a springboard for him to take another MLS club, which I don't want to happen either. But man, now that's where the pressure comes on. If he was more than willing to be like, look, I don't really want to be the coach again. Like, this was fun, but then I would feel great, get somebody else in, no problem. But now it's like
somewhere within the club, and we would gladly.
He was technical director before this, and I think he's doing a good job of that. We've seen talent come in. He's he and Lutz are boys. Like, all of the internal stuff is great. I just don't want to rely on another interim manager. Bradley Carnell only had like a season-ish with New York and took them to the playoffs, and that was it. And then we, quickly saw that when he took over there, they did well, and then they stopped doing well the next season. So it's, some of that stuff is what I want not to happen. But then it keeps coming back to the conversation. I have genuinely no idea who you look for. Like,
that's what I'm about to say.
I still... we're in, if we were talking about one of our English clubs, I've got a short list ready for you. But we're talking about, we have the entire world at our hands to find a manager.
Some of our Premier League clubs need to be looking for, but we'll get to
that. Maybe. But yeah, I don't want him to. It's not like he's not won over, the good graces of the front office, the fans. Everyone is down for what he's done. I just don't want people to be like, this is the answer. This is the solution to our problems. He's got great...
What they did with Tim Parker.
Well, a little bit so, for sure. But
they ride the venom. That's what St. Louis fans like to do.
I do remember receiving a tweet from somebody. It was a while back, because we were Carnell out and pretty active and vocal about it. And people weren't in love with that side of us. But we were right. So... Someone tweeted us who was like, LOL, wonder how long it's going to take the Carnell out crowd to turn on Hackworth. And I was like, brother, we're not. He has zero pressure. There's zero pressure. Next year, he has pressure. Like, next year's where we come back and I'm like, all right, what's our identity? How do we adjust from game to game? How do we adjust personnel-wise? The pressing style is great. Use it situationally. It shouldn't be the thing that people prepare for us for. All of those questions are going to need to be answered the next year.
We are at a so much better spot than where we were at this time last year. Like, yes, we were about to go into the playoffs, but like all of us were confused with what style of play we were playing. We were losing a lot of games lead up to the playoffs. We were all like, I don't know our identity. We're not really scoring goals. And then we get embarrassed in the playoffs. And it's like we're at this point last year where it was not good. Now we're at a spot where like our offense is kind of flowing. We got the guys. They just need more time together. We got a couple of targets we need to find in the offseason defensively. But like we actually have direction moving into next season. And that makes me super happy. So I think next season is going to be a good one for us.
Yeah, that's the summation of all this to me, is that no matter who's in charge, it's just going to be better. It's just going to be better. There's no way it's not. The vibes are high. I please God, extend Berkey for just a little bit longer.
It scares me.
Our team's not built for a 5-year program anymore. Our team is success in 2 years or bust.
Yeah, I agree with that. But can we also talk how Berkey kind of let that goal in?
Yeah, but he also kind of stood on his head outside of that.
You're right. You're right. But
I'm with you.
I saw it go in. I went, Berkey? I went, what?
Yeah.
You got some hands on that. What?
Yeah.
I was a little confused. But I will say before we move on, Missouri is 100% City Red, and I don't think that's going to change.
Missouri is red.
Missouri is red. I never thought I'd ever say is red out of my mouth ever, but I will only say it when it applies for St. Louis City and the MLS.
City Red. Let's clarify. Yeah. Missouri is City Red. Yeah,
You hear me say
you're
that
right.
too? I said Missouri is city red.
You're right. It was, we
'Cause I
hate
don't
that
want to say
shit.
yeah, fuck that. It is nowhere near that color in London. All right, great transition. The Premier League, we had some movement in the table, or who like some big boys not getting some results. Some teams finding some points. The first game I wanted to talk about though was City Newcastle. We got a 1-1 draw and City dropping points to Newcastle. The big points that I don't know if you watched it, Hoove. I got to watch a little of it just because I was up early before the Chelsea game, and I obviously throw Prem on every time. City without Rodri is going to be real interesting to see. I think they got to figure some things out over there without him on the pitch, which again just shows the quality that he has. And without him, they're kind of lost in the final third. They had so many chances, but they just could not find the back of the net. It was a classic City, just dogpiling them with shots and them holding on for dear life. I also think if you watch the game, the pen that they called against Gordon, I thought was soft as shit. They ended up giving Ederson. Why am I freaking out on his name there? Holy. They ended up giving him a yellow card too for it. I thought it was so soft. I don't even think he touches him. He pulls his hands away. Gordon dives, but he finishes the pen. And of course, that's the only chance they got. But 1-1 tie for them, and City drops points. I don't know if you had any thoughts on it.
Yeah, you're definitely right about Rodri. They're just not the same.
Yeah.
And Newcastle are dangerous, and also St. James is the worst place to play in the world. I'll come back to that, and I genuinely think I've seen it happen with Spurs. I've seen it happen with other teams. People crumble when they go there. So, and Man City obviously didn't crumble, but it's never an easy place to play. It was a 1-1. It was a little bit of low block and counter, and Newcastle had some chances on the counter. Like it was not terrorist. It was close to terrorist football, but it wasn't 100%. They
I know
definitely looked okay.
but like expected goals, Newcastle had 1.5 and City only had 0.9.
Yeah,
So
one of those I think is the pen. So
okay, you're right.
So I think that, but you got to be in the positions for that to even happen. So, and you're right, 100% soft pen. I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think we'd both be wanting a pen if that had happened to us, but
100%. Right, just said it was soft.
Unbelievably soft. Yellow card didn't make sense contextually. I think he nicks him, but I don't think he sweeps his feet by any means or anything like that. So, I mean, at this point, it's just heating up the race. Like we said this all last year, all of these games are so important, specifically for Manchester City, and Arsenal and Liverpool maybe too. But it's just All right, brother. We'll talk. We'll chat in December. Let's see.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
But this evens the playing field, obviously. And it's going to go to May again. So that just is what it is.
I couldn't agree more. I think this result does nothing but spice up the entire league.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see the end of because you're right. These games matter. Like we'll look back on this if City wins or City loses by like a point or two, or if they win by a point or two, which is usually like the circumstances of late. We'll look back at this and be like, wow, they lost that one. But you're also right. Like playing at St. James's Park is not an easy task ever.
It's terrible.
So I also once again, I don't know if you watched it, but Guardiola scored their goal, and oh my god, what a tasty finish he had from a center back. I was like, sheesh.
Dude, I love that dude. I think he's got sauce in his boots. I think he's a great defender. We were talking about him at the World Cup, and he was going to be the next guy, and here he is being the next guy. And I saw a video on Twitter today too. It's all the Man City players coming into training in their cars. He drives like a brand new Volkswagen. Like VW something. Like it was just he's just a guy. You know what I mean? Like Matthias Nunez. Yeah, bro. Matthias Nunez is pulling in like a blacked out AMG G-Wagon, and he hasn't even earned that title in my mind. It was just funny to me seeing that. So I like him a lot. There's players that you can like on City and still not like City with most teams, obviously, but there's a couple guys on there that, I think are good lads.
100%. But dropping points nonetheless. We will move on to the next fixture. We will see how City does for the remainder of the season. Next one I want to talk about with you, Hoove, is obviously a spicy one for me. 4-2 Chelsea versus Brighton. And what a first half. Jeez Louise. Before we go anywhere in talking about this game, I have to brag about him because, I mean, what a player do we have over at Chelsea with Cole Palmer. I said it last year, like when we were not looking so good, that he was the only bright spark that we had. And the fact that he's still able to provide that spark in a talent with the talent that we have on our team now, absolutely amazes me. I think he's a top 3 player in the world right now. I know I could be on a high horse, but I think he is incredible. And having 4 goals and a half in a Premier League has never been done. Shout out to him. I also think all of his goals were completely different. Having a pen, having a near post goal off a 1-2, and then having a free kick from 30, like, just shows the talent that he is. I will say before, like, now moving on past just completely bragging on Cole Palmer, I think I was very nervous to start the game when they put the ball in the back of the net against Sanchez. Sanchez had a shocker for both of the goals. So I was definitely nervous to start the game when Brighton went up. And then obviously Cole completely took over the game. He scored like 3 within 9 minutes and like completely flipped the game on top of its head. Sanchez tried to allow them back in with another mistake. The first one, he like egoed, tried to punch a ball out from the penalty spot and like was halfway when the ball hit the dude's head and chipped it over him. The other one was just him literally playing the ball to the other team's striker and him finishing it. So I will say having 6 goalies now is looking pretty good for us because we have some ability to rotate that position. So that kind of makes me happy. I know you guys were giving us shit, but it's kind of helping us out when your goalie gives away 2 goals. I also think you said it best. We are going to score a shit ton of goals this year, and we are also going to allow a shit ton of goals this year. I think Colwill is still, I think he's a baller. I think we are unlucky this game to not get a shutout because Sanchez's mistakes. Hopefully we can still figure it out, but I do think we're going to bleed goals this year. I know we're going to completely dog this team later, but Sancho on Chelsea is just so much fun to watch. I don't know what was going on at his former clubs, but 3 assists in 3 games for us. I mean, I absolutely love it. And I think I've said it many times before, having subs of João Felix and Neto just absolutely makes me so happy. But yeah, I was super pumped about this game. And with the result, we're in the top 4 now. I think a top 4 finish is realistic for us now. I was a little skeptical before, but now I think it's definitely within our grasp. I'm full on Enzo Maresca. I know you said last week you didn't even know his name, but I do think he's going to be a Premier League legend. I think he's brilliant, and I love what he is bringing to my
Premier
club.
League legend is wild. That is a crazy call out. You think he's going to be a Premier League legend after what, 6 games? 5 games? That's insane, brother.
Yep, that's how much he's transferred our team
no
already.
way. Ain't no way. I found this
Okay.
legend?
Let's take that a little over exaggeration that I had and put it to the side, and I want to actually hear your thoughts before you just ream me about what I just said.
Damn, that's insane.
There you go.
Insane. Nah, Cole Palmer's a player. Like, if at the end of the day, the most plaudits I can give you is that was some good business. I actually had a conversation with with Jim Krupp, Jacob Krupp's dad, at the City game, hanging out, having a few sodas and Maggie's beforehand, and the conversation came up into it with, we may be having a conversation on bad business for Man City's side. Like at some point, it could be looked that way. I also think too, though, he just wasn't going to play there. Like, he knows every single one of those kids on that youth team probably have insane quality and deserve to be playing in the Premier League. But like, he just
He's
wasn't going to
also
start
one of
over those
those.
guys.
He's also one of those players that I feel like I don't want to dog him at all, but like he's not the smartest outside of football.
Brother, he's an
The
airhead.
way he looks and the way he like dribbles isn't like the prettiest. So like I kind of understand like if you just saw this kid practice or if you just saw this dude train or if you just saw him walking on the side of the street, you wouldn't think he was a baller. But
Bro,
like you put him in a game and boy, the man can create.
dude, hey, there's not a lick of thought going through that man's brain at any moment in time other than left foot ball in net. Like it's impressive. I think I've seen so much about it this week. Like the dude has no pressure. There's zero pressure on him to perform whatsoever. He doesn't even probably know what that means. Like there's nothing on this guy's shoulders at all other than ball. And I think there's a huge benefit to that. He may be the first player in history to never actually have any pressure on his shoulders. Like he just plays free. Shout out Kaye, quick rep, play free. But it's like it's impressive. Like he's good. Let's not get overhyped on the penalties. He's a good penalty kick taker, and like he hasn't missed. And you love to dog Harry Kane for taking pens all the time, but he also doesn't miss. It's an art form. It is a skill, and not everyone has that. So when you have the skill, use it. People will call you a stat patter, but if you score 4 goals in a game, you're not stat patting shit, especially if it's just one penalty. So he's really, really impressive. I think Jadon Sancho just needed a bit of new scenery.
Yeah.
It's not the first time that we've seen someone leave a situation that they weren't happy in and just have a little bit more fun with it and play better. So I don't think this one reflects super hard on United's business, more so than it does, him just changing, him just having fun, growing a little bit into it. Because it wasn't going to work at United. He was in weird situations with Ole and then Ronaldo, and then the Ole issue. Ronaldo leaves, Ten Hag comes in. I don't really know the whole timeline of his situation, but like it just wasn't great from the start, and that's a Man United problem at the core, and they know that. I'm not saying anything that Dobes and Hen wouldn't agree with, but it for him, I think it's just fresh life, new lease on it. You guys are definitely going to leak goals, but also Brighton looked like Tottenham with 9 men playing their high line. Like they looked horrible with the high line.
Shocked they did that.
And they were down some major players, I know too, and didn't have, all their pieces in, but like I understand better than anyone sticking to your principles, but this was another situation. Like we shouldn't have been playing a high line with 9 players. But 10, 11, we're going to be just fine. They did not look okay at any point with balls over the top. Like it was almost route one and just, sitting right there waiting for it. So that surprised me. Because
one thing that I think fed into that was, I know we talked about it with Klaus, but like Nico Jackson had a performance. Obviously, he didn't have. I think. Let me see. He assisted.
He had an assist on the first. Yeah,
he
the
assisted
slot
the
back.
first one. Mm-hmm. Like he was running. Like they were playing that high line, and he was getting runs and balls played into behind, and he was making some good runs. And I'm obviously coming off of the brace. I want him to. He should have had goals this game. I think there's going to be those games where he's going to miss some sitters, and then there's going to be those games where he's going to be a world-class finisher. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, so Brighton surprised me, I think, with some of that. And it's disappointing. We said it last week, like this may have been a real test for you guys, and then they did not come to play. And you guys handed them 2 goals, and that was a majority of what they had going for them. So interested by how it panned out, but nothing takes nothing away from Cole Palmer. Kid's a baller. Like, is what it is. Better than Saka was the conversation in the group chat a while back.
I don't even close.
And look, we wouldn't have had that conversation 2 years ago. We never saw him play more than a couple minutes for City. It's not like this is a new discussion because they're English. They play the same position, kind of.
Yeah, I would agree with you if it was the casual fan, but I'm telling you, when I was watching him like early on at Chelsea, I was like, this man is way better.
he just does more for me. I don't know.
I think Madwicki is a more comparable person to Saka, and I'm being honest with that.
You're gonna have to wait a couple years because Saka's cleared that since he was 17. But well,
My guy
yeah,
hasn't.
we're clipping that one. We're coming back to Madwicki versus Saka. Yeah, not a conversation for today. I'm going to defend the Arsenal player, which is a shock. You really got to be doing something special for me to. God, sorry about it. That's just ball. But yeah, boring second half.
Speaking of the awful other club that supports or not supports that resides in London, Arsenal with a 4-2 victory over Leicester. I'm not going to lie, I was not watching this one because it was at the same time as the Chelsea game. I obviously had the score on my side, checking it and refreshing it. So when I saw that it was 2-2 going into the 90th minute, I was pretty happy. I thought Arsenal was going to drop points. But I then checked it later, and in classic Arsenal fashion, they scored 2 goals late and end up getting the 3 points and winning 4-2. I don't know if you got to catch this game and see any of those highlights, but I have a feeling it was pretty crazy with the late drama goals.
Yeah. First off, this Justin Kidd on Leicester City scored a worldie. Scored an absolute banger volley. That was disgusting.
One-timer. Yeah.
I did watch a little bit of it, and man, I just turned my TV off. I'm not gonna lie. When that 90+4 went in, they were throwing the ball everywhere they could, trying to just penetrate a low block, and there wasn't a whole lot of there was a little bit more of a willingness to go forward from Leicester City, and that wasn't the reason that they gave up the goal. It was, another set piece. Another corner kick like that. It's just, you got to watch out for it with those cats. That's title-winning teams are really good on set pieces, and that's what they're going to need all year because they may find themselves in more situations where they're tied to the bottom half team. That's long time. They've got injuries. Guys are out. It's going to be interesting for them. But, I don't have too much else. Winks' official statement was +3.
3 points.
So that's all we got from the Gooner side of this podcast. But they scrounged it out. I think, in my humble opinion, we may see more of these from Arsenal this year. They've got a lot of games. They're playing in a lot of competitions. They don't really have the depth, in my opinion, to just casually kick it about like City kind of does.
What do you mean, Raheem Sterling isn't a baller to you?
Dude, Raheem the Dream. I saw him coming in. I almost chalked up the drop points. I was just like, he's got it. He's gonna save you guys. But no, I think we'll see some testing of their depth for sure in a title race. Again, I still think they're one of the best teams in the league. No problem. I can say that. That's ball. But they're not as deep as I think some might think. They have 12 center backs. None of those guys play wing back, but now apparently they do. And California's scoring goals, and I don't know, whatever. But it was tight. There were a lot of sweaty people.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, and I also agree with you that in a title race, these are big results for them. And I think the fact that they can lean on their set piece is going to be huge for them because if you think about it, when it gets late in the game, you just want to lean on something and it's tried and true. And if you win a corner, that's pretty easy for them. And it's something that they do very well. I also completely agree with you. Their depth is not as crazy good as people think, and I am very intrigued to see with a lot of the competitions that they're in, if they're not doing well in those other competitions, of how they will pick and choose who starts and which ones. So I think that'll be very interesting for them in the future. I think that could also cost them the title, but we shall see. I don't know. City's dropping points. I have no idea what could happen. Chelsea could possibly put their name in the hat. Who knows?
God, relax. Pablo Marasco, what's his name? He's a legend.
I said he could possibly be.
I think he said he was gonna be. I don't know.
I might have said that as well.
I don't know. I don't know.
Regardless, Arsenal with 3 points with late drama. But moving on to actually the team that is at the top of the table at the moment, Liverpool 2, Wolves 1. Once again, I didn't watch much of this game, but it's another team that I think if they're consistent, they're going to be fighting for the title. But yeah, Hoove, I don't know if you caught it at all or if we just want to end it on that. Salah got a pen. Konate scored. But yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to catch too much. From what I maybe remember, and I may be wrong on this, I want to say Wolves is kind of Liverpool's bogey team. So
Yeah.
for them to bounce back from last weekend, I'm sure they all feel pretty good about that. Against a team that's maybe had their number the last few years away. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's just a wait and see with me for Liverpool. Is like they're playing some good football. They're playing some really good football, but then they get punked, and I don't know. I just don't know what to expect out of them, and I'm not confident they do. They obviously want to be challenging for the title, and challenging everything they can. They went to AC Milan and did their business there too, but I'm still gonna wait. They may be title contenders by the end of this. They may be sixth. Like I just don't know. So
I completely agree. I think one or two injuries to that side as well could drastically change their outcome. But I agree with you. It's a new coach as well, so like starting to learn his philosophy and his identity in the first season. Like we'll see how long that goes. But I completely agree. I could see them riding the wave all the way out and competing for a title, and I can also see them just drastically dropping points.
I don't know. I can't say I've watched a ton of Liverpool this year. I don't know if their time slots have just been off for me or like
I've watched a couple, and the only thing I always take from it is every time Nunez is off the pitch, they're 8 times better, and Luis Diaz is actually pretty good.
Luis
Those are
Diaz,
the ways.
my takeaway is that he's a dog, and I think we kind of
He's
knew he
terrible.
might be, but I think he's a dog.
He was always one of those guys that I had like on the edge of like he could be a dog, but like also I could see him literally being Anthony. Like I could see him going both ways, and he's definitely going more towards the dog.
I think he's a player, and I think whatever they've done, whether it's just consistent minutes to unlock him, they're getting the best. So credit where it's due. He's a good player.
Yeah. Moving past them, though, as they are top of the table, wanting to hit on the last and final one of the evening and probably supposed to be the game of the weekend. But was it?
Still
really?
A game of the weekend. Still a game of the weekend.
Dominating
Still a game
performance.
of the weekend.
We had Spurs versus United. Spurs 3, United 0. Hoover, I didn't even want to talk or start it up. I want to hear it all from you, and then I can dive in as well.
Should I read the statements first?
Yeah, let's read the United statements.
Let's read the United statements. And I'll read Henry's first. Just kidding. I'm gonna read Dobes's. Dobes sent a couple, and I'll explain here in a bit. First one. Oh, God, it's effing long. Manchester United, where do we even begin? And watching that loss to Tottenham felt like witnessing a slow-motion car crash where everyone inside is politely pretending it's not happening. Spurs, the team that usually can't find their way out of a paper bag when the pressure's on, made us look like we've been doing defensive drills with our eyes closed. Eric Ten Hag's got to be wondering what kind of karmic debt he's paying off right now. If that man isn't sweating, it's only because he's already dead inside. The hot seat, he's sitting on a damn volcano. I'm starting to think our defense is some sort of witness protection program because they're nowhere to be found when we need them. Honestly, I've seen fewer gaps in Swiss cheese. What was the strategy? Just vibe and hope for the best? Our back four might as well start charging rent for the space that they give attackers. It's getting to the point where opposing teams should send us thank you notes after matches. The attack, oh boy. At this rate, we might as well be fielding traffic cones because at least they don't lose the ball every time they touch it. Marcus Rashford is running around like he's trying to remember if he left an oven on at home. Bruno's out here auditioning for Premier League's next top meltdown. I'm half expecting him to throw a punch to the linesman one of these days. We can't string together 2 passes without looking like we're an entirely different sport and playing an entirely different sport. Still going. Meanwhile, Ten Hag is probably scrolling through job listings, praying no one Ajax cancels his calls. Somewhere, Van Gaal and Moyes are laughing, pointing at their screens, saying, "See, it wasn't just us. This isn't a rough patch. It's a full-blown identity crisis. If we keep this up, we'll be lucky to finish above mid-table." That's being optimistic. We're Manchester United, but right now we're playing like a team who has no idea what those words even mean. Hey, maybe there's a silver lining. Maybe this is all part of a larger plan to absolutely shatter expectations so when we manage to win, it feels like a miracle. Or, hear me out, we're just really, really bad right now. Either way, at least we've got the past to cling to, and that's all we've really got. Here's the kicker. ChatGPT wrote that.
I knew it. I was like, those are such good one-liners. I was like, how did you just have them all written?
He didn't even have the heart to write a statement. He went to ChatGPT. His preface was, "I'm a miserable United fan that just lost to Tottenham. Write me a statement for a podcast to make it kind of funny." And he goes, "To be honest, I'm not sure I could say it any better." He did send another one after Henry suggested, "You should prompt it again and say, that doesn't feel like it captures the extent of how miserable I am watching this team." And this second one is comical. The second one's really funny. It will take way too long, so I'm not going to read it. But
check our Twitter. We'll post it on Twitter.
We'll post it on Twitter. Watching Manchester United is like being stuck in a bad relationship. You hope it'll keep getting better, but deep down, it's only getting worse. The loss to Tottenham wasn't just a public defeat; it was public humiliation. Why do I do this to myself every weekend? It's like showing up for a gourmet meal and getting served cold porridge. We've hit the level of misery where I'm starting to feel nostalgic for the Moyes era, and that's saying something. This ChatGPT, that was impressive. There's some ball knowledge written into these statements.
For a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Henry's comes out with a lot shorter and more emotion, but for me, I agree with everything ChatGPT said, but above all else, I'm just so disappointed. Feels like this is the beginning of the end for Erik Ten Hag. I don't think he'll get sacked this week or next week, but when he does, we'll be able to look back at this moment and know it was kind of where it was this moment that all proved to be shit. The team looked totally lost, every single one of them. I also want it known that was 100% not a red card for Bruno. I agree that you can't put yourself in a situation like that, but that's never a red. Can't believe it didn't get reviewed. United created nothing. We looked like we had no heart. Casemiro was our most creative player when on the pitch when he came on. We desperately need competition back in our wingbacks. They're playing every minute of the game. They look gassed. 24 hours later, I am very much a sad boy. So, yeah, you know what? Let's before I go, let's get in on the red. Let's get our thoughts out of the way. I am in agreement that should not be a red card for Bruno.
Agreed. Is it? I think Hen said it perfectly. Bruno should never put himself in that situation. And the tackle was dirty.
Yeah.
Do I think it's a red though? No. I don't think he has his cleats up. I don't think he catches him cleanly enough to warrant a red. Is the intent though kind of naughty? Yeah, but I agree with you. I don't think it's a red.
It's like I don't really know. I mean, it looked worse real time. Right. Like yes. A lot of these things, we go back and slow it down, whatever. We slowed it down and we realized it wasn't that bad. He had a high boot. He slipped. He didn't connect studs to leg. He scraped down the front of Matter's shin pad with his heel. It looked bad live, but
awful live.
I'm surprised they didn't come back. And I think the only thing that held them from going back and overturning the decision was how high his boot was. He was knee high going in with a lunge like that. That's my only thought process. Again, I'm not team red card here. I don't think that was deserved. I think it was a hard call, but definitely can't put himself in that position. Looked like an idiot doing it. And that's, he's got that streak in him. It is what it is. You get frustrated. I don't think it was intentional. I don't think he had intent to kill Matters, but he definitely was cool with pulling a yellow there. You don't throw yourself into that type of tackle without knowing there's going to be some repercussions. But yeah, rough call. Now here's where I'll dig in. That red card changes absolutely nothing. That red card does not change the game whatsoever, other than maybe a little bit less attacking output for United. I don't think any of the midfield that they played that day were influential whatsoever. It looked like the first time they were all playing the game. And I don't like how I feel like this happens every time Tottenham beats somebody like this who might be, on the ropes with a manager or it's a big win in a way that maybe not everyone was expecting. The focus always goes to the other team, and especially United. The focus is on United and Eric Ten Hag right now. He is counting his days. Like I think everyone would agree this is the moment that the United fans are all 100% allowed to be like, what were we doing? Like, what was the plan? No discipline. I don't know how they play. We saw a little bit of it last season. We've talked about that, but it's just not translated to the guys that they have now. But Tottenham balled. This was Ange ball, lads. This was prime Ange ball. What you want out of it?
I was gonna say, I'm not saying, by no means do I want you to think I'm comparing the two, but I also think this was kind of a big game for you guys in Ange's respect, as far as just like we wanted a statement. Like, obviously you guys have had a roller coaster to start the season, and like I feel like obviously he's nowhere near the hot seat that Eric Ten Hag is on, but like I think you guys wanted a big win from Ange, and I think you guys kind of got it.
100%. And again, he was not on the hot seat, I don't think, in any capacity. But you lose a couple games off the rip, it doesn't look great. Yeah.
Yes.
And a stat that I found myself coming back to is before this game, we had the same amount of points that Pochettino had when we were in a title race in 2016, 2017. So it's hard to, we're still so early days in the season itself, but we have an identity. Like, we have a plan, we have a process, we have tactics. We know how it's going to look most days. There's been some flexibility. He's not been rigid on, out and out press, high win attack. Like, there's been some, adjustments that have been made with Matters and Kulusevski. But this was prime Ange ball. This is what you want to see out of Spurs. I think it was a good time to go to Old Trafford for sure. From our point of view, I think that the bouncy house at this point, it looked good. It was a good time to face a struggling team that you really want a result from, and you had terrible results away for forever. Like the head-to-head Man United and Tottenham is embarrassing compared to how many times that they've won. But, again, the history that ChatGPT talked about was they used to win a lot all the time. So it was a huge win. Dominic Solanke 3-3. Brennan Johnson 4-4. He's been, prime Gareth Bale since he deactivated his Instagram.
We might be able to roll back some clips of me, but I always thought Johnson had a little flair in him where I was like, this guy's not awful.
No.
Like, by no means is he a like world-class player, but like I think there's some spark in him, and if he gets some confidence, he can do good.
And we're seeing it kind of come to light now, and I think he's back to the player that he was with Nottingham, which, counter-attacking football. He's great on the run. He'll find a great pass across the field, or he's always free on the back post. Like, he's in the positions. I think there's a player there too. I don't think we're talking, we're not going to have the conversation of right wing versus other teams, but he's only doing so much, like everything you can ask of him at this point. Like, there's not a whole lot else. He hit the post too. He could have had two. He looks like he's having fun again. I think, the goal he scored against Coventry when he deactivated his Instagram, he didn't even celebrate it. It was a game winner in the 92nd minute, and he just looked sad. And now he's chirping Bruno on being an idiot for getting this red card on his way off the field and like flexing in his face. Like, we got the swagger back. Like, he's in. So that's exciting. Love that. Dominic Solanke scoring striker goals. Like, not only striker goals, he's combining so well. Whatever his
anime stuff that he does.
Brother, I couldn't name one anime reference that this man has at all. I have to go to Twitter to be like, so which anime was this that he's like? genuinely no idea. I don't love it, but I love that he's got a personality and he seems like a great guy. So that's nice.
And he scores goals, so
He scores goals, brother. He scores goals. He scores striker goals, and he combines really well. He was the player. He dropped. It was extremely Harry Kane-esque, where he dropped deep, got a ball up top, flicked the ball on for Brennan Johnson to run into, to then set up Kulusevski for his also semi-absurd finish. Like that
touch.
It was a little Zlatan-esque.
Does Onana possibly have to sing?
I think he was caught off guard by the attempt. Because it was close enough, in my opinion, that
I'm just also starting an agenda that Onana's cheats. That's another story.
He's so hit or miss for me, dude.
He's Kepa.
Way better with his feet, though. I think it was a Zlatan-esque finish, that high flying outside boot, and I think if there's any credit to give to Onana, that's a hard shot to anticipate in any capacity. So that was awesome. That goal was awesome. Kulusevski is balling. He had 7 chances created.
Also, he's another one that, like, when he scored, you could just see it in the passion after scoring.
Yeah.
Like, he was so happy. He was screaming. Like, he was so thrilled to find the net.
I rewatched that video a couple times because it was like he's running to the corner. He's smiling. He can't contain his smile. He's like, he's getting his heart out. Yeah, he's getting his heart out to his wife and I think new baby or something. He like kisses the camera. And then as soon as he walks away from the camera, it's just stone-faced. Yes! Screaming at the away fans. It was so funny how his personality changed in 10 seconds during his goal celebrations. Like, he was amped, which you love to see. I think he's that guy. Like, I think he's just the fiery, I want to say Mamba mentality. He loves the NBA. He's a big basketball watcher. I think he knows what the Mamba mentality is, and, he knows he wants to be the best. So you love those guys, even if they don't necessarily pan out to be the best. But he's been balling. We do have to mention our man, Timo Werner.
Don't say our. He is so much yours.
Timo Werner.
He is all yours.
Spurs could have had like 5 at least. He was 1-on-1 with Onana twice, bro.
So I was gonna bring it up twofold with this. I've said it on the podcast before, but during this game, my mom yet again showcased that she knew ball. She texted me one and said, "Good riddance for Timo," which was hilarious. And then the next text, and I sent Hoover this as well, was that Chelsea drastically needs Mickey Van de Ven and that he is a world-class center back. So, yeah, my mom definitely couldn't agree with you more that Timo being on your guys' team is a benefit to Chelsea.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to this, but we were Sunnyless. Like, imagine if fit and informed Sonny's having a day in that game. Like, and I don't want to sit here and just drag United into the mud a little bit. I will do it a little bit.
I'll gladly do that if you don't want to.
I think Hen and Doves are reasonable football fans, and I think the conversation around Eric Ten Hag is ready to go, right? Like, it's up. It's up. Is he the guy? I don't think he's the guy. I don't think they think anymore that he's the guy. The Mecca Banter group chat.
The reference in ChatGPT was spot on.
That was spot on. He's hot.
Thought it came from Toad.
And how did this?
How they said it.
And how did they do this review and be like, "Yep, he's our guy"? It's like, United's never going to fully escape this top-down management issue when that was a top-down management decision in their review. So that is interesting to me. Timo shouldn't really start many games anymore, in my opinion. He gets into great positions. He knows it's, his attack positioning, his mentality, and where he finds himself all the time is so great. He just can't do anything with it. So, in my opinion, we saw Mikey Moore for 13 minutes, 17-year-old starlet, just absolute, world beater in the U21 team. He came in, immediately looked more dangerous. He had one opportunity that he sent just a bit wide on a curling shot from the top of the box, and I wanted it to go in desperately. So it's exciting to see him come up. I think he's showing that he can be, a baller in the future. But final point, we're looking at two center backs that one was already being tracked by Real Madrid, and the other one's going to go for 80 to 90 mil if we can keep him. Like Mickey Van de Ven is 23 years old, and he is becoming one of the best center backs in the league. He's unbelievable. Like both sides of the ball, his positioning to pick off the ball from Rashford in the first place. Great. You'd love that out of a center back. And then they usually pick their head up and find a pass. This man went 60 yards down the pitch, crossed the ball, slot, Brennan Johnson, tap in.
This is going to come a lot coming from me because of how much we just talked about him and how much I just gloated about him. But coming from a center back and knowing, and I've said it on the pod many times, how much I believe that defense is the most important thing and will win you the titles at the end of the day. I think Mickey Van de Ven is just as important to Tottenham as Cole is to Chelsea. I think Mickey is that level of a player for you guys, and that good at his position that he can drastically change games for you guys.
I actually think that's a great point. Like the same exact way that you guys can't play your game without Cole Palmer is 100% flipped onto Mickey Van de Ven. He is the backline sweeper. Like, we play a back line, and you need a guy with some pace to be able to track back. He covers so much ground and so quickly that it allows everybody else a little bit more freedom to just do what they want. So, 100%, I don't think this team is half as good without him. I think any of the games that anyone's ever watched with Ben Davies playing there while Mickey was out last year, it's just not going to cut it. We're not talking about the same guy here, brother. Like there's levels. Ben Davies, great, good for him, awesome stalwart of the club, and I love you, brother. But he shouldn't be seeing the pitch if Mickey's healthy, and we got to keep those hamstrings fresh. We all know that there's some juice in them, so they got to be contained here and there.
Quick boy,
you got to protect those hammies, but. He's comfortably my favorite player at this point. Like I'm enjoying the Spurs team more than I've enjoyed many in the last few years. And when Harry Kane's on the team, you always have a chance, in my opinion, that he's doing things that people weren't doing, and he was probably single-handedly keeping us alive for a while there. But now it just feels so much more complete. We've got better players all over the pitch. Destiny Udogi's a great, absolute baller on the left. Pedro Porro's sometimes a defensive liability, but he'll whip a hell of a ball. He's great in the build-up. It's nice to see a complete team, and really, watching it against United was awesome because it's almost polar opposite. No identity.
Yeah.
Players playing below their expected levels, not being able to put anything really together. It was a nice difference.
I also hate to bring it down a little peg or two, but United's not great. So I don't know how much you can take away from this of we're so, you know what I mean? No. United's a mid-table club right now, and they're struggling. They also had a red, so I just wouldn't look crazy into this of why.
At the end of the day, it was a mid-table clash. We were 1 point off of each other, and now it's 4. But Spurs are 5 out of the first place. Yeah. You know what I mean? Contextually, like I said early, this was the best possible time to go to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
So there is that, obviously, and the other 3 wins we've had in a row were Brentford, Qarabag, and Coventry City. So we're not world beaters. This team's not got it figured out.
You got Brighton next, so.
And I hope a lot of their guys are still out, and I hope everyone plays a high line and it's got 25 goals in it. So that would be really fun. But yeah, it's just something to build on, man. It's the first time I feel like I've been positive on this podcast in months. It's like a breath of. I felt genuine relief after this, and I never feel that way. Even after Brentford, it was it felt like a nail biting 3-1. It was not done until it was done. matters goal, sealed it, and we were good. But like this one, top to bottom, felt good. And yes, they had a red. I think they may get one out of the game if he stays on. But I don't think they stopped the other two going in. It was just
Nope.
it was
I
flash
agree
in the
with you
pan. It was just
100%.
quick fire, and I think you or Greaser or Ewan or anyone else on the Mecca Sunday League team score where Timo was. So
And it's funny, I was going to bring that up before we ended, but Mecca Banter Sunday League, another dub, another 3 points, 4-0. Just a nice little 7 or 5
goals,
5
5 and
goals in the
7.
last 7 minutes to win.
We scored
So,
like 3 and 3. That was electric. That was some of the most fun I've had playing Sunday League.
Real nice.
But
yeah, Spurs with a great result. It's obviously good for you guys moving forward. You guys have Brighton, as we talked about before. Hopefully it's something that you guys can build on. I did want to end it, though, Hoove, with a juicy factor cap, and I think it kind of goes in line with what we were just talking about. I also think you may see this coming or had an idea that I was going to bring this up, but fact or cap, Eric Ten Hag makes it to the new year.
New year, no shot. I don't think there's any shot. No, that's.
Wow.
I think that's cap. But it was kind of like what Henry said, and like I don't know how they do this because
Henry told me he was making it to the end of the year. Is what he told me. That's what he told me.
It's like they're in the weirdest position possible right now, where they just recently publicly said this is going to be our guy. We support this guy. But since then, brother, it's kind of been shambolic. So where does that support end? You lose if they lose 3 of their next 5. That's not the new year. That's through October into November. Like
I told him if it was Chelsea, he would have been gone.
Dude, and
out.
FC Twente, they took a 1-1 draw at Old Trafford as well. Like that's a way worse result than Spurs, in my opinion.
And some of the signings that he brought in are playing and still not getting results.
There's an agenda about these former Dutch players, and I don't know if I fully support it because I do think there's some quality talent that he has brought in. Anthony, 90 million, is the number one suspect of what was he doing. That's ridiculous. So that one I get, but like, we saw some positive moments from Xerxes, not necessarily on Sunday, but previously. And, Mazarawi, I think the right back that they just got in, I think he's really solid. I don't think he plays out of his depth. I think he's solid defensively. Henry may have a bit about that, they're tired because they do play every week. Dallo, too. I don't dislike Dallo, but he was also in no man's land when Brennan Johnson tapped in, the goal in the first 3 minutes. So I don't know. I don't think he makes it to the new year. But when, I also don't know. Like, it just, the timing is so weird for them.
Yeah, I think it's capped as well. I don't think he makes it to the end of the year. I unfortunately think, I think I've talked about this many times, Premier League teams are almost like a cycle, like keep on going through. Yeah. And I think United's in a similar spot that we were like last year or 2 seasons ago. And I think it's going to be a rough season for them.
This is also out of Dove's mouth from Sunday. And Russo was giving him some stick. He's like, dude, if it's Southgate, I'm gonna laugh my ass off. He's like, do you think it'll be Southgate that comes in? And Dove's just like, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. He's like, the United fandom bullied ownership out of buying a striker from West Ham or something, last year. He's like,
that they didn't like.
He's like, they'll do the exact same thing if it's Southgate. No one really wants him. It makes sense for him to be in line for this because, again, despite not winning trophies, really, he had a good record at England, right?
Yeah, because he was the England coach and the talent's there.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't argue that at all.
I could have had a winning record with that squad. Who? I just tell him, go play.
No, I don't know. It's so weird, and I
If
don't.
they got Southgate, I would be so happy.
And we talked about this too. Russo brought this up, I think, as well. Thomas Tuchel would do really well, I think.
I agree.
And
I agree.
and
I
an,
miss Thomas Tuchel.
and another point that Tim Howard made on the broadcast, because again, it was all about United, nothing really about Spurs. But he said, someone asked him, like, if Ten Hag does leave, does this squad turn it around with a good manager? Is the talent there? Is the depth there? And he said, absolutely. He's like, you look at some of the mid-table clubs that are outperforming the way that they should be, a la Fulham, Brighton, a couple of these teams that are keeping themselves afloat with what most would consider less talented squads. It's 100% possible. Like, this team, I don't think they're not talented. I think they're in a huge rut. I think a new coach could come in and turn something around with the guys in the squad. Obviously, every manager wants to come in and make signings. It'll just be we're talking about interesting days. Every match day, in my opinion, is going to be a hot seat for him, and
Agreed.
he's got to do something.
We shall see, Mr. Hoover. Hey, but I want to see everyone else's opinions. So let me know in the comment section if you guys think Eric Ten Hag is going to make it to the end of the year, because I would love to see what you guys think, because I don't think you. But that wraps up our episode for this week of the Mecca of Banter podcast. As always, follow us on all of our social medias: TikTok, Twitter, X, Instagram, all the above. You can find us there. We always want to be active on those. So if you guys want to throw some ideas or even just banter with us on the comment section, we are looking for it. So find us there. As always, peace and love.
Yeah.
Cheers, Hoover.
Thanks, bro. It's a good one.
Cheers.